And welcome to my Sunday Soulful Conversation. I'm Reverend Charlotte McGinnis. And as always, I really appreciate you taking the time to tune in and join me on Sunday mornings. And hopefully you'll find a little inspiration, something to think about, and make you feel a little better during these turbulent, interesting times that we're living in. I tell you, it's crazy out there. And lots of people are feeling the effects of whatever this cosmic shift is, whatever we're choosing to call it. But it's definitely a time, I think, of upheaval, reflection, shift, change. But I do, in the heart of my hearts, know that it's all happening for us, for our greater good collectively. And it's waking up. So we have to let go and undo all that doesn't serve us so that we can really awaken to the truth of who we are as divine beings of love, of light, as children of God, as brothers and sisters, and all that good stuff. So before I get started on my conversation today, looking for love in all the wrong places, that inspired, do you remember the movie, some of you all probably do, Urban Cowboy? And the theme song was looking for love in all the wrong places, right? Well, that inspired my topic today, looking for God in all the wrong places, and what that means, and maybe how we can deepen our connection with Source, with love, with peace, with oneness, unity, and all things that are love. I want to invite you all to submit a prayer request. If you're in need of prayer or someone that you know is in need of prayer, please go to my website, charlottemcginnis.com. You can submit a prayer request there. And our ministers from the Alliance of Divine Love, we're building our prayer ministry. We've got, I think, close to 80 of our ministers who will be holding those prayer requests in their hearts for the greatest degree of love on all levels to unfold. And the really cool thing is one of our ministers even passes that on to, because she works there, at Silent Unity. So we get a double hit there of just pure light and love and healing. So charlottemcginnis.com, submit your prayer request. Be happy to serve you in that way. Next Saturday, you can keep an eye on my Facebook page. First Saturday of every month, I, along with Reverend Dr. Bonnie Barnes Kelly and the founder of our beautiful ministry, Reverend Dr. Barbara Selwa, we have a monthly Angel Squad gathering, and next week's topic is self-care. So we're going to have a little conversation, a little meditation, a little message from Barbara and her guides, and then an opportunity to share. So all that information will be on my Facebook page if you're interested, or you can reach out to me and I'll be happy to pass that along to you. Well, as you can see behind me, the little kitty cat, she seems to thrive on, wait for Sunday mornings to be seen on these videos. She comes up and down the steps and just likes to be part of it. I guess she likes the energy. And we are still in the midst of major renovation. It's moving much slower than we would like it to be, but it is what it is. And still just moving around boxes, and everything's moved into this area here. And we've basically moved downstairs, which thankfully is very comfortable. I'm grateful for that. And it is what it is. So enough of that. I'm going to go ahead and jump into today's conversation. And, something I'm contemplating, and about a year ago, I created a larger platform for an audience to hear Sundays, because not everybody's on Facebook. That does tend to be where I get a lot of hits from, or interest. But there's a lot of people who don't like Facebook, who are not on Facebook, not interested in being on Facebook, and I totally understand that. And so I opened up a larger platform, which means that I'm also streaming live on my website, which I know some of you guys go there to watch it, charlottemcginnis.com, under live streaming. Really cool thing that they were able to put that together for me. And then also YouTube. You can go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/inspire YOUTV. And you can watch live there, or everything is archived on that channel. You can subscribe to that channel and it will pop up. So just sharing that, because one thing I do miss is when I was strictly doing it from, and I'm on Zoom as well, but when I was coming only from the Facebook, it was so much fun to see the comments and interact and say hi to everybody. And I really do miss that. And I know some of you guys miss it as well. But anyway, if you have anything you want to say it in the comments or send me a note and I'll be happy to respond, because I want to make this as personal and interactive as possible. So moving on to looking for God in all the wrong places. What the heck does that mean? I think you got an idea. You've probably framed something in your own mind about what that could possibly be about. So I'm going to go back 40 years ago. Sometimes, I don't know about you guys, I don't feel my age, thankfully. It's hard to believe that when I say 40 years ago, I can remember that like it was just yesterday, truly. And but anyway, I don't mean to digress, but back in about 40 years ago, my early 20s, I had begun a spiritual search outside of my traditional Methodist Christian upbringing. And it wasn't prompted by any negative experience, anything that was anything more than curiosity, a yearning to know more, an understanding of other religions and philosophies and why some people believe this way and that way and who's right, who's wrong. And, I was seeing a lot of separation and putting stakes in the ground that this is the only way. And so I began to be very curious. And I know I've shared this with you before, but my goal was to find that common thread that flowed through all traditions, that led us to a state of inner peace, kindness, well-being, and connection to God, or connection to love. And so, interestingly enough, I know some of you've heard me say this before, but I'm a very diverse in what I watch. I watch all the news channels. I do a lot of alternative media on the internet. I read articles from all perspectives. I mean, I got a lot going on in this head because, again, even with world issues, with politics, I don't want to be someone to tell me how to think. I want to be able to discern, sort of let these go through the filter, all of these ideas go through the filter of my heart, and then come to my own conclusion that serves my greatest good. So anyway, back to when I was in my early 20s, as I was doing this search for God, a bigger expression of God, or making sense of how we could all live more in harmony and peace, I was watching, I think it was TBN, Trinity Broadcast Network. It's a Christian network. And all of a sudden, whoever was speaking, I'll never forget, everything that I was exploring was Satan. Turn away from that. It's not good. It's bad. Run the other way. Repent. Blah blah blah. And I was like, oh gosh. But I didn't know what to do with that. So what naturally I do when I don't know what to do is I go inside and I ask. And I had the intention and a sincerity of prayer to God as I knew God and Jesus, that, you know what, if I'm going down a slippery slope or somewhere that doesn't serve you or my greater good and is opposing your divine will, then show me, put up the barricades and the blocks. And I'm not attached to this if it's not for my holiest and highest good and the good of others. So interestingly enough, through my sincerity of prayer and so on and so forth, I had doors open to show me other perspectives. Behind me, you see this beautiful Yogananda poster, Paramahansa Yogananda, who was a self-realized being. He was a man who was in his body like Christ, Jesus, who fully embodied, love and light and the wisdom beyond understanding of this world, self-realized. He's a non-dualistic being. And so I'm very drawn to his teachings, and I believe they're very sacred and holy. And I was being led to all sorts of things. Course in Miracles came to me in a very interesting way. And once I got into that was what suited me very well. Because to me, it was Jesus coming to us saying, here's maybe where you misinterpreted, or maybe man has misrepresented my message. This is my interpretation, and here's what I intended to say. So I do like how it brings in Bible scriptures and teachings, and actually helps to make sense of those. So that was a great means, and is still a great means of spiritual support and guidance for me. And I lead a group on Friday mornings. All are welcome to join. Again, just let me know. I'm happy to include you. We have a great, solid group of spiritual seekers who are choosing to live from the greatest degree of love. And it's very wonderful group of people. So I prayed to God, all these doors started opening, and I have been down a zillion rabbit holes. I mean, you name it. Well, Spirit led me to open up 2 centers. I had the Palm Beach Center for Living in Florida, Palm Beach County, Florida, a spiritual education and outreach center. And then the Namaste Center I started up here. For 11 years, each one of those centers, which I found very interesting. But with opening up a spiritual center, came many interesting people with interesting messages. And although maybe I wasn't 100% in agreement, they didn't speak to my heart, in other words. I always tended to be open to letting these messages be shared, as long as I, discern those to be coming from a place of love, because there are, many paths to God, many paths home. And some people find it through means other than the way I find it. So I was always very open to that. And so with that came a wide variety of people. So I've experienced all sorts of things, been down many rabbit holes, and mostly good. So with that, I retired a few years ago, started an online ministry. That was another divine blessing. Actually, I believe it was the fall before 2020, the COVID experience, March of 2020. This was 2019. Spirit said, start an online ministry. So I started doing Sunday services online and having classes online, and really still continue to feel very comfortable doing so. And actually very comfortable doing so. It's nice to just be able to do it all from here and connect. And I do feel that there's a connection that, our bodies, we don't need to have our bodies together. It's our souls, it's our hearts that are connected. And I'm really getting that now. As a matter of fact, I was having dinner with a friend the other night, and she's a therapist, and let us know that she had decided to go full-time on Zoom, and no more clients, no more driving to Asheville to her office from Hendersonville every day. And I think that that's not a bad thing. Some people feel that we have to get together and this and that. And certainly I love being bodies together and all of that. But I don't want to negate the power of this option right here, this platform of virtual gatherings. So anyway, I've been down the rabbit holes. Spirit led me to the virtual ministry. And then when you know it, once COVID hit, it seemed like everything had led to that way of communicating, and has pretty much held true for many people. And if people have chosen to gather physically, there still is a virtual option because we've gotten comfortable with that. And that is part of our evolution, and instead of fighting it, just say, okay, this is what feels good to me and works for me. And it is what it is. And if you feel better or more inspired to go to a physical center or church, then so be it. It's really having the courage and the wisdom to tune in to really what speaks to you. And I'm not here to, by any means, tell you anything to do. The only thing that I'm here to do is share my story. And I really do believe that within each and every one of us, the Holy Spirit is there to guide us, lead us, and direct us. By request, we have to ask. We have to be willing. We have to be sincere. Ask and ye shall receive. So it's there for the asking. Well, moving forward, I've talked about this recently, and I'm very intrigued and inspired by all of these spiritual awakenings and these revolutions and these gatherings of thousands and thousands of people, this God revolution. Asbury University and many universities and spiritual groups followed suit all over the world, still coming together to really experience and worship and feel the presence of God, and really having miracles occur that are beyond this world. And it's very awesome if you look into it. And I've been very curious and inspired by, what's happening here. Our world appears how many times have you heard that, going to hell in a handbasket, right? And I just look at it as the tearing down of the old system, the ego paradigm, the fear paradigm, and actually all things that don't serve our ascension, our awakening. And of course, here we are in the Sundays leading up to Easter. That's what this whole 40-day journey is about, is letting go of the baggage we carry, the past, the ego. So people are feeling that call on a big level, global level, as I said, these universities. And then I was very touched by the movie, The Jesus Revolution, and being a true story. And actually, even today, 50 some years later, excuse me, there's still many of the main characters or ministers from the beginning that are still doing awesome work and doing huge spiritual work. And I find that very inspiring. And also, what about The Chosen? That's been something on TV that's been available on many different platforms. They've made it available for anybody and everybody to watch for free. And that is really the story of Jesus' life. And it's so relatable and so it's wonderful. And so there's all of these wonderful opportunities to answer our calls for peace, calls for love, or calls for God. So, looking back, I do, run a prayer ministry. I have for years now, and I hear from a lot of people and on a daily basis. And, there's a lot of people who are struggling and having big issues these days. And, they're depressed, they're anxious, they're sick, physically sick. There's maybe their finances are being extremely challenged. Maybe their relationships, it seems like they're lost. And I think that a lot of people do feel lost, and they're looking for something, looking for God, looking for answers. Well, ultimately looking for peace of mind, I would say, and well-being. And so I've really reflected on that, and I continue to, and I look back and think of where I see a turning point, possibly in society. And I remember growing up in Huntington, West Virginia, going to elementary school, Kamak Elementary. Some of y'all watching may have gone there as well. and went there for junior high school. No, don't need to know where I went to school and all that. But anyway, I remember in homeroom or the beginning of the day, the principal would come on the speaker, and we would stand up and put our hand over our hearts, and he would say, take a moment of silent meditation. And we just close our eyes and be silent. It wasn't a religious plea, but rather just be silent and put your hand on your heart, which when I look back, I'm like, wow, that was amazing. And then we would say the Pledge of Allegiance. And I think looking back, I wish that I see that it probably wasn't a good thing that came out of the schools, because I don't see that necessarily as it was never a religious or bring God or anything. So I don't understand how people could be offended by that. And I know some people watching this may have a different perspective, but I think that we took something very valuable out of our schools when that was taken away, between the silent meditation, hand on the heart, and the Pledge of Allegiance, because that was a setting, sort of a quieting, a reset, a setting of the intention for the day, that I'm going to breathe, I'm going to put my hand on my heart, I'm going to be peaceful. And there wasn't at that time, there wasn't the craziness in school. Yeah, there were issues. I mean, and it wasn't all perfect. I'm not claiming to be ignorant to what was at that time. And there were definitely struggles and things of that nature. But modern day, I mean, the past years, the schools are dealing with these mass shootings, fentanyl overdoses, depression, suicide, anxiety at levels we've never seen before. And I'm seeing that, something's just not right. And I feel that it's because we're missing God. Ultimately, we've got to bring God into the picture, into every moment. And if you're uncomfortable with God, replace that with love. And what is love? Love is unconditional. Love is kind. Love is good. Love is inclusive. All of these attributes of God or love, we have seemed to collectively strayed from. And so I really think it's time that we are willing to lay our differences aside and align, with one side being right or one side being wrong. And I promise you, from my experience, that if you really will be open-minded enough to take a look down all the rabbit holes, okay, everybody's looking for meaning. Man's search for meaning, right? Woman's search for meaning. We're all looking for something, and maybe we're looking in the wrong places. So I watched this guy, and he's pretty radical but funny, and his name's J.P. Sears, and he's a comedian, and he's got extreme views. We'll just put it that way, but I do find him somewhat entertaining. But interestingly enough, he popped up. I haven't watched him in a long time, but he popped up on my YouTube. I was out in the garage. Our garage, by the way, is not your typical garage. It's a fitness room. So I was out there on the treadmill, and he pops up, and he all of a sudden gives this testimony to his newfound religion, connection with God. And he's got this t-shirt on, Got God. And he told his story of going from more of a new thought perspective, spiritual versus religion, and how he's sort of moved into more of a religious Christian thought system. And it's really worked well for him. And I was like, wow, that's wonderful, interesting, because I felt a great sense of peace from him, and not maybe such a sharp edge that I had felt in the past, not intended to judge, but I felt like he was a little edgy and that grating, I guess you would say. And I felt like he's different now. And so I believe we're here to find our own way. And I do believe that his search for meaning had led him to that point. And that's worked beautifully for him. And I think if we have a sincerity of intention and a request for meaning, understanding, connection, spirit, love, God, that if we quiet ourselves down enough and listen, ask, and then listen, we will be led. Well, this is something interesting that's happened, been in the back of my mind and coming more to the forward front. And I'm very curious about baptisms. And I definitely see the baptism being it's not about a religious experience, even though it could be, and that's wonderful as well, but really a purification experience, one of where we're washing away our sins, our fear, our past, okay? All things that it's just a ceremony or a divine intention to be free of all of that which has kept us asleep or separated. And so baptisms have definitely gotten my attention over the past several months. And then I was looking at one trip that I'm very interested in taking is to the Holy Lands, been wanting to go there for years. And Greg Braden takes a group over every year. And Greg's one of my faves. And there were pictures of them being baptized in the River of Jordan. And I was like, dang, that is cool. And so the whole group, they all have on their white and they're being baptized. And I thought, well, very cool. So it's something that I feel is going to appear at the right time by the right person in the right situation. I don't know when that is. It might be in 15 minutes or it might be in a year. I have no idea, but I'm open to it. It's definitely, you just got to pay attention to those little subtle calls that come in. Well, funny enough, I had just read this before, and I just wanted to add a little levity to today's conversation. And this was something that popped up actually on Facebook, and it says, nobody tells you this, but getting into alignment with your inner being can sometimes feel like baptizing a cat. Well, yep. And, getting alignment, all of this purification, we can go through it with ease and grace and peace, or we can fight like hell to hold on to it. But I have that picture of baptizing a cat. And cats hate water, as you probably know. If you have a cat, you don't certainly want to put them in water. And, just think of how they fight. Well, that is, I think, a metaphor for our own letting go, our own baptisms, our own purification and healing and letting go. Sometimes it's not easy, but it doesn't have to be as difficult as it can be easy. Like they say, you can take the easy way or the hard way. And I think that the easy way is just to surrender and trust the process and know that there is a force in the universe working for our greater good, our peace, and our well-being. Einstein says the most important question that we could ever ask ourselves is, do you choose to see the universe as friendly or hostile? Well, if I choose to see the world as a hostile, vicious place, guess what? It's going to reflect back and show me every reason for it to be that, right? So I choose to see this world as a holy place, a loving place. And by that intention and decision, that's what reflects back to me. And so all these situations and relationships and all of these things are basically learning opportunities. So, oh, that tweaked me. What is it that needs to be healed there? Well, that feels good. I'm going to align with that one. And I think the universe is always giving us feedback to look at what we can heal, where we can make another choice. And, I always, sometimes I'll be on that pink cloud and feeling good and peaceful and feeling like, dang it, nothing's going to get me. And just 2 weeks ago, I had a great opportunity to realize I wasn't as spiritual as I might have thought I was, or far as along. But anyway, I've gotten through that as well. And, sometimes I just shake my head at myself and say, okay, that's everything is a teaching device for bringing us home. So I had a great learning a couple of weeks ago and still working through it, but it's much better. Well, kids these days, as I said earlier, the teens and well, even the young kids, are just they're confused, they're challenged, all of the above. And I go back to, wouldn't it be nice, moment of silent meditation, hand on your heart. That would be a cool way to start the day. I'd love to see that back in the schools. But I know that my niece Emily, who's a beautiful little spirit, she's 18 now, hard to believe, going to college in the fall, and she on her own was a seeker. This, I believe, started a couple of years ago. And that little Dickens found interest and a connection to Judaism. And she took it to heart. She studied it. She did this on her own. She found a temple. She found a rabbi. She's converting. And I just think, isn't that awesome? And, I'd look at that because I think that when we're sincerely seeking God, love, whatever you call it, will answer our call and put us on the path that speaks to our soul and our heart. And this truly speaks to her heart. She reads and speaks Hebrew now. I mean, it's really remarkable. So, Emily is one example of many out there, because people are definitely seeking connection. And, what is looking for God in all the wrong places? Where are we seeking love, God, but maybe it's not the best place for us to find it? Well, I would say the golden calf, right? The idol, false idol, worshiping the calf. What is it? Well, what is your golden calf? What is your false idol? What is your identity? Do you identify yourself as a perfect child of God, as a being of light, of love, of eternal goodness? Or is your identity wrapped up in your bank account, your relationships, your job, what your education is? And if the more we identify with these golden calves, these false idols, the less we lose, the less we know who we are in truth. So we'll never find God out here. It's really an inside job, being still, asking, and then waiting for the answers. And then we are living our lives from the inside out rather than the outside in. Well, prayer ministry, I'm just really, this has been such a beautiful, meaningful experience for me to be able to serve in this way and to work with so many awesome ministers who support our prayer ministry with me. And we are sincerely just praying for the greatest good on all levels to unfold. In other words, thy will be done. We're surrendering to the will of creation, the will of love, the will of God to be done, rather than saying, fix this, change that, make this happen, and thy will, not my will, be done. And I think that's a very high level of prayer, because when we do that, we know that no matter what, it's going to be okay. It is okay. That I don't need this situation to be the way that I think it needs to be for me to be okay. So, but it takes a lot of letting go. And sometimes, it's tempting to, right now we're working in prayer with this beautiful little spirit. Her name is Hope. And this, without going into, she's 5 or 6 years old, and she has had quite a journey physically through her life, short life. And she's right now dealing with some heavy stuff. And I mean, if I've ever wanted to pray for a healing and an outcome, this is one that's tempted me. But I know that really there's a greater plan that I don't understand or know, and it may be for her to come back fully and healed perfectly and on all levels and physically, and it may be for something else. And I just have to trust that God's will for Hope is done, and it is for her best, highest and best, and all of those around her. And sometimes that is not the easy thing to do, because it is tempting. So what I do with situations like this beautiful spirit hope and others is just send them divine love, light, surround them in God's love, just thy will be done, and seeing their beyond my limited vision instead of identifying with a person's limitations, sickness, whatever relationship, whatever their perceived situation is, and to go straight to the light and the truth of that person and allow that to emerge. And that is when prayer is very powerful. So a couple of things that I was thinking about. Well, how do you get the thoughts out of your mind if you're in doubt about God? Well, I think that people always are questioning and doubting, doubting Thomas, right? That can't be, and I think it's a very personal journey. There's many paths. I believe that all the world's religions, philosophies, sacred teachings, and even agnostics and atheists, everybody is fine. We're all finding our way. And we're here to share it. What do they say in 12 step? Here to share our experience, strength, and hope with each other, to support each other, that every person finds their perfect path. And I love what the Course in Miracles says. It says, although a universal theology is impossible, a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. So we're all on our path. We're all programmed differently. We've all had different experiences, different environments of growing up, and so many different variables that the path, going back to my niece Emily, her path for her journey right now is Judaism, and it speaks to her heart. So if we're open to that, we're all seeking that same experience, and we find it in different ways. Even back in the 70s, some people found God. Well, what their path to God was maybe hallucinogenic mushrooms and LSD, and I'm not an advocate of that by any means. But for some people, that was a spiritual step for them. And it seems as though the people that were on that path were able to use that as a stepping stone and a means to take them to the next level of connection to spirit, which actually is what the movie The Jesus Revolution was about, was the hippie movement. And people were looking for something, and they thought that drugs would do it, but then realized that wasn't the case. So looking for love in all the wrong places. So no matter what, you're on the right path. And if you have faith, you will have doubt too. We'll question. I think you begin to, as the Course in Miracles says, we question every belief and value you hold. Is this serving my ascension, my awakening? Is this the highest and best thought, feeling, emotion for me at this point in time? But, we need to ask God or ask Spirit. Again, I love in the 12 steps, I think it's step 3, came to believe that a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. So, if God, the word God or the concept of God ain't working for you, a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity. So just be willing to, if it's trees, whatever, our Creator, love, here's our plea, our call. We don't have to get caught up in semantics. We have to be willing, though, to let go of any preconceived notions of what that might look like, and just be open. And I'll be darned, you're gonna find your path. It's gonna open up. A book's going to fall off the shelf. You're going to get a phone call. So you're going to hear something on TV or see something online, or someone's going to knock on your door. It's going to find you. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. So some of the things we can do practically, I think, which is a part of our awakening, is we can live a holy life. Biblically, we have the 10 commandments, which are sacred commandments for living. and, basically don't kill anybody, and, on and on, love your neighbors yourself. And I would say living a holy life is living a life of integrity, goodness, kindness, forgiveness, generosity. Those are attributes, I believe, of spirit, of holiness, so we can all do a little better, right? And I think that this question, I remember 30 years ago at least, there was somewhere in the Midwest, there was a church, a Christian church, that did this experiment. And it was the preacher made the call to the congregation to ask themselves every moment to, what would Jesus do in this situation? And they did this, the whole congregation, in every situation that they walked every day, they would ask, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do? And when they tuned into that, it was generally they did the right thing. They were kind, they were good, they were generous, they forgave. And if Jesus is not a comfortable word, what would love do? What would kindness do here? When we live from that perspective, asking the questions, then we begin to understand that it ain't that difficult, really. And we don't have to get caught up in the language. It's actually a journey beyond words. It's an experience, a connection, a feeling of inner peace. So it's a fun journey. We're all on it together. I share my journey. I share what I learn, take what you like and leave the rest. And, my goal for myself is to live a more peaceful, kind, loving life, and to be a presence of light in the world to the best of my ability. And sometimes I do really good and sometimes I don't. And try not to beat myself up or get too cocky when I do, or beat myself up when I don't, and just to look at everything as a teaching device. We talked Socrates said that a life unexamined is not worth living. Well, we have to examine, not with judgment, but just look at, maybe do an evaluation every evening. Where did I do good today? Where could I have done better? And through that, we're lifting the veil. We're opening ourselves up to the next step, wherever that is. And my next step may be one that makes sense to you or not. I'm not here to tell you what to do or to judge a step you're taking. I'm just here trying to find my way and support everyone best I can in finding their way. But ultimately, when we make our mind up that the only thing we want in our lives is God or love, and pursue that idea with determination, you will find it. So again, the Course in Miracles, if we really wanted the peace of God, we'd have it. But it's all these things we put before, these attachments, these idols, these false identities, these golden calves. But if we really focus at all, more than anything in this whole shebang, I want the peace of God, and I'm going to pursue that with determination, then guess what? It'll come to you. Hope that helps. Hope it makes sense. Thank you all for tuning in. And until next week, hope you have a great week, and see you next week. Use the prayer ministry if you need to. Also, Course of Miracles, Fridays at 11 a.m. Eastern time. We have Angel Squad next Saturday. All are welcome, self-care conversation. And then, of course, Sunday Soulful Conversation. So have a great week, everybody. Namaste.